Hi again, this is John Schaffner. I am the director of the coaching program at Fisher College of Business. This is the second segment on coaching instruction for our Fisher Business coaches or our Fisher Developmental coaches. Thank you again for participating in the coaching program. In this section, I really want to talk about phase 2 of the coaching program as we teach it at Fisher, which is really this idea of content. Change the N from the first video. All right, content, what matters? This is the part where we start to really have the coaching conversation. We've already entered and contracted. Now I want to just familiarize you with a couple of the frameworks and a couple of the ideas that I've taught in class and that should help this lubricate the conversation so that it's meaningful and important. One of the things that I really emphasize is the journey that you're taking these students on is really from a problem more often than not. Let's try to do this effectively here. On the whiteboard, a problem. They come to you with a problem. I had a terrible internship and I need a job next year. Or I'm not getting along with a couple people in my cohort. Or my wife has a great job out in Utah. I want to stay here in Columbus where my family is. Whatever problem it could be. The coach's role is really to, and we've talked about this neurochemically in class oftentimes, is that problem occupies a different part of our brain. And as a coach, through the ways that we ask questions, the way we listen, and the way that we're attentive and giving of ourselves to the other person, are in many ways, we are vehicles to helping them understand the problems that befuddle them. Philosophically, I've talked in class many times that one of the things to consider is that everybody that you coach has the answers to the questions inside of them. Coaching is not, as you know, an advice-giving program. It is not mentorship. It is helping people come to the solutions of their own. But we help them walk from this idea of problem to challenge. Okay, so you have this problem of not having a job. Well, what are you challenged with right now? Well, I need to reassess what I really want out of a job. Okay, that's an interesting challenge. I've reassessed, and then you start to elevate it even further to this idea of opportunity. Right? So taking them from a problem to a challenge to an opportunity is really the framework pathing that you should be considering when you're coaching someone. That is the way that we are trying to get there. Okay? How do we do that? Right? There are a couple different ways for us to do this. One of the things in the second phase is really trying to unpack the questions and the listening that is going to be able to hasten us along that pathway. One of the things most of you all, at least most of us who have been interviewed, are familiar with is the STAR model, right? And the STAR model is a pretty simple model. S stands for situation. What's the situation, right? What happened? The next part is the T, the tasks. Right? What was the intention? What was your intention? The A stands for action. What were the actions that were undertaken? And then finally, R stands for the results, and that's really the outcome. In the coaching world, the first phase is content, is context, right? The first phase we always talk about is context. What's up? Content, why does it matter? And then finally leads to conduct. What are you going to do about it? Situation in the STARS model corresponds to context, what happened or what's going on. Task is content, what did you mean to happen? And action, what actually happened? What was the conduct phase? And the results is the outcome phase. Right? So using the STAR model allows you to unpack what happened, or important components, right? So that's STAR. We've talked about that in the past. The next thing I've always talked about is really kind of understanding the implication of Lewin's model, which is behavior as a function of the individual and the environment. People are behaving in a certain way. That is a function of who they are as human beings and the environment in which they work. So being able to ask questions effectively that allow them to unpack who they are individually. These are questions that could have to do with things like worldview, developmental frames, their background, their story, And environment has to do with how they were raised, the environment they're presently in. These sort of questions are important to be able to be part of your coaching arsenal. But behavior is a function of the individual, and the environment is one of those models that we've talked about and is very helpful in the coaching world. I have a feeling this is just like covering up my face. So I'm going to take a quick erase here and move on to the other model that is most helpful for most of my students when it comes to being able to walk through it, and also has some components that are oriented towards neurochemistry, which is ORID. O-R-I-D. Can also serve as a coaching process, right? These are the questions that you ask. Objective questions first. Objective questions first. Okay? What's an objective question? STAR is a group of objective questions. Okay? R stands for reflective. What's the emotion? What are some emotional questions? How do you feel? Objective question. What happened? Reflective question. How did that make you feel? Interpretive question. Interpretive question. What does this remind you of? What does this mean? What are some options here? And then finally, no coaching conversation is effective unless you start getting some action to emerge from it. And so decisional is the last one. All right? So this is actually dancing around different parts of their brain. And that's an important thing to do as a coach, is to be able to sort of tickle different parts of their brain so they start to have a broader, better view, more abundant view of what they want to have help around. Objective questions first, reflective second, interpretive, and then decisional. That also can serve as a process for you if you're thinking about that. Talked about Lewin, talked about ORID. Finally, there's been plenty of tools that we've talked about, and we have an opportunity. There's a link attached to this that takes you to an OSU box that has a bunch of tools for you to use that can help you with homework, that can help you with these frameworks. That can have there's a listing in there of powerful questions that you can use. There's additional readings in this box. It should be attached in some way to this video as well. And those tools are really important. I'll talk about a couple here before I let you go. One of them is one that I advise all of you to use, which is the Wheel of Life. We've talked about this in my class many times. It's being able to really tell the story about this being a spoke of wheel with 18 slices of pizza on it, if you want to call it pizza or wheels. And they're 8 really important parts of your life. Your love life, your financial situation, your physical environment, where do you live, right? Friends and family is another one of these that's really important to have. Personal growth. And again, you can populate these however you wish. Your health, your career, and fun. And what you'll ask your client to do is populate 0 being here, 10 being at the outer circumference. What's their satisfaction with each of these? So for instance, me, very satisfied with my love life. My financial situation, not so much. My physical environment, I like it. I'd rather live in Rome. My friends and family, good stuff going on there. Personal growth, good stuff there. My health is better than it's been. I'm digging my career because I get to do this stuff with you all, and I'm having some fun. So where are the discrepancies here? Again, it's my decision to talk about this as the client, but really, probably this delta right here in terms of finances would be a place to work. Couple things. This tool allows people to look at their lives from a vantage point that allows them to separate their lives into digestible pizza slices. And it also is a prioritization tool, because a lot of times most of us try to solve all 8 of these at the same time. Research shows that if you just focus on one thing, you will actually find that you will be able to make really good headway on that one thing, while you tend to dilute that when you focus on too many things. Right? So that's one of the tools, the Wheel of Life activity, that is really important and has been deemed very helpful by a lot of the coaches that have gone through the program. Okay. Just to recap really quickly, this is video 2. We talked about content and what matters. How are you going to sort of have the conversation? One of them is to be able to navigate the conversation from a problem to a challenge to an opportunity. The other is to utilize things to unpack objective data, which is STAR model, helps you do that. Another is to kind of understand all of the aspects of behavior in terms of the individual and the environmental impact on behavior. ORID, objective, reflective, interpretive, and decisional, is a model you can use even as a process for each of these conversations, and it opens up different kind of parts of the brain to the conversation. And finally, there's a couple tools that you can use to be able to help them. This is a perfect example of homework, which I'll start to talk about in video 3. Thanks a lot.